Welcome. We've got another continuous improvement culture moment here for you. Today we're going to be talking about a KBI, and that's B as in behavior. So that is a key behavioral indicator. I've found recently, and this is a new topic for me as of about 2.5, 3 years ago, that these are super impactful. These really can drive towards the right results. And so if you've done any work with Shingo Institute, or if you plan to or want to, you can look at the Shingo Institute. And one of their big mantras is that ideal behaviors drive ideal results. And what's really impactful about this is most of the business world understands what a KPI is, P as in performance. So those could be, some of your quarterly financials, some of your safety numbers, operating margin, EBITDA for some of the publicly traded companies out there. But those are performance indicators, and those are results. So when you get those, and they are important, you gotta have them. You gotta know what drives your business. But those are results. So when you get those, you might be able to change it for next time if it doesn't meet what you're expecting, but you're not going to change it that time because it is a result. So what a key behavior indicator does is it gets ahead of it. So you'll hear some people will say leading versus lagging. And so a KPI, I would deem a lagging indicator. KBI, I would deem a leading indicator. The reason why I don't say leading indicator is because I think it's very important for people to understand that when you are looking at those leading indicators, they are the behaviors. So it's the behaviors of the people executing the work that are creating those results. And so I'm very kind of stern about making sure I leave that language there, that this is a KBI, a behavior indicator. And these are the things that if you maybe have multiple teams executing and one gets really good results and one maybe struggles to get some results, these are great to sit down with those two teams and say, what are those behaviors that you're displaying to achieve those results, and see where the differences are, and get some best practice sharing by leveraging data. And that data is very important because I think a lot of people kind of have a little pride in their work and a little passion around their work, so they believe the way they're doing it is the best way, and that's perfectly fine. But when you can actually start measuring behaviors that feed up to a performance indicator, a KPI, that data can really help with those conversations. So if I think about when I thought about how am I going to explain a behavior indicator to people so that it helps them and is impactful, some of what I just said is really what came to mind, but I really thought examples is probably the best way to do this, because it's really not super complex or complicated, and I think most people tend to want to overcomplicate it. So if I think about as a KPI, let's just go outside of the work world. A performance indicator is how much weight I lose every month if I'm a fitness nut. And so if I sit there and I say I want to lose 10 pounds next month and 5 pounds the month after that, I have that KPI I'm striving for. If I were to sit down and list out the behaviors that will achieve that goal, I could think about things like how many miles I run, or how many minutes I lift weights, or what types of food I'm eating, or what types of food I'm avoiding. So if you really just start listing out those behaviors, what you could do is then start measuring them. And at the beginning of the month, maybe you get a little sloppy and you're missing the mark on the behaviors that are going to get you there. You now have 3 more weeks to close that gap, and so you might have to do a little extra the next week or the week after. So it's those behaviors, and it's having that data that says I need to change something right now or I'm not going to meet my KPI. Kind of a more maybe business example that's really simple is meetings. So if you're measuring how much time you're spending in meetings and how much time of that might not be bringing value, and then you're saying, well, one of the behaviors that actually creates a meeting where there is value is having an agenda or having a set of goals, and then you start measuring that as a behavior and then avoiding that or correcting it before you get in the meeting. So now I can change the value metric of that meeting. So this is something, again, that I've really gravitated towards the last couple of years. I've seen it help dozens of teams. It helps me dramatically. I use them for dozens and dozens of things. Certain groups that talk about maybe end of the year performance or during the year performance might be measuring some leadership behaviors. So if you went to your organization and said, what are the behaviors that create the leadership culture we want? Get some measurement in place for those. So again, don't overcomplicate these. Try and keep them simple, but really understand what behaviors are driving my results, and think about a KBI, behavior indicator, versus a KPI, performance indicator. Again, use both, but start to focus on those BIs.